Hey everyone, and welcome back. It's me, Anas, and I'm joined again with my co-host and friend Jack Fisher, who I missed dearly the last episode. Jack, how are you?
Hey, well, and it's good to be back. Thank you for being patient with me. These past couple weeks have been rough, but thank you for joining us in our world. We're back, and lots happens in 2 weeks. Apparently, this
Yep,
1 week, and everything kind of goes a little nuts.
yeah. I think we have a lot of news to talk about, a lot
Mhm.
of comics discussions, and of course, like two episodes of Daredevil, not just
Yes,
one, and two of the craziest episodes of Daredevil.
I know.
So why don't we start there? What did you think of the last two episodes?
I got to tell you, I didn't know if they for sure if they were going to let Vanessa die. I was kind of show has done really really well in playing with tension. I mean, but unlike a lot of shows, you don't know what's going to happen. You think you know, but you're just not entirely sure. They kind of really dragged out these two episodes. Like, is Vanessa going to survive? Is she going to recover? Is she going to be different if she does? And I got to admit, when they actually let her die, I'm like, that was a oh man, that's a big turning point. And I think that the fact that it wasn't rushed, the fact that it was so drawn out, I think that just made everything work so much better because this past episode, the scene that kind of stuck out the most for me, and I don't know if yours is different, is when the surgeon comes in to comfort Fisk,
Yep.
and he's basically doing everything you would expect a good doctor to do, and Fisk's natural reaction is to crush him with his arms, and I think is actually something very in keeping with how Fisk is in the comics. When he loses Vanessa, I think this is also kind of like the first little sign of that. He loses like whatever restraint he had. He kind of loses any semblance of balance, and he just becomes as ruthless as any criminal can be. And it was just so amazing, seeing that, like when he did that, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is he's crossing lines that he wouldn't usually cross. You get the sense towards as the episode goes on that he's not looking towards the future anymore. He doesn't have a grand vision. He's just kind of attacking whatever is in front of him. That's a dangerous thing for any criminal. Real life criminals, when they get to that point, are almost always their own worst enemy. And the way this episode ended, you kind of get the sense, yeah, Fisk is he's unrestrained, but he's also going to be very foolish. And at some point, Matt Daredevil, he's going to take advantage of that. So that's my opening thoughts. What do you think?
I definitely am intrigued about what's gonna happen next. I think that we are seeing Kingpin he is not desperate or rash in a way that I would expect him to be. Like he
Mhm.
is pretty calm at the moment, but I feel like he's gonna explode at some point.
But yeah, that we agree on. He is going to blow his top, and it's going to be a mess.
I think what stood out to me in these two episodes is Vincent D'Onofrio's acting. Like
Yes,
he has been a great addition to the street level Marvels since
yes, he has.
2014. But those past two episodes, he was just great. Because yes, he fought Matt and there was action, but other than that scene, which was not that long, you
Mhm,
just got to see him express sadness, indifference about
mhm.
losing anything else because he lost the thing that mattered to him or the
Yes.
person that mattered to him, so nothing else mattered. And you can see that with him challenging Charles, whoever he is.
Yes.
Earlier you can see him he killed Charles' henchman, but he still was afraid of Charles to an extent. And
Mhm.
you saw the Kingpin being restrained when it came to this person, but right now he is not restrained anymore.
Not even close.
Yeah. And there's an interesting thing that happened when he was talking to Matt that
Mhm.
reminded me of Hawkeye, which is the idea that the only way to win against the Kingpin is to make deals with him, which
Yeah.
reminded me of Hawkeye because one of the things that Hawkeye did as Ronin was that he made a deal with the Kingpin to stop whatever crime he was doing or whatever the deal was back in the day. And we didn't learn about that until
Mhm.
Hawkeye episode 6, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly.
It was the next to last episode, I believe.
Yeah, and that reminds me, I said the last episode or the one before it that the Kingpin was snapped, but no, he wasn't. I was misremembering Hawkeye.
Yeah.
I revisited it. Nope, the Kingpin was not snapped. I think that whatever happened with the snap just changed the laws and everything about the Marvel universe at that point. So the Kingpin just got out of jail.
As he is known to do.
Yep. And, we'll see what happens next with him. We know that he's in season 3.
Mhm.
He's not the mayor anymore, but he's in season 3, as we have seen in the leaked set photos.
Yeah, I did see that leaked set photo. I saw that he has a new look too. And because I think I don't remember, but I think the Kingpin, he does have disguises and aliases that, because I know he was like head of he had led up the hand at one point in the comics. He's been involved in Hydra a few times. He does have other aliases that he uses to kind of, when he doesn't when he can't be Wilson Fisk, he does have other aliases. And maybe we'll see something like that here. But another thing I'm curious about is, I'm not sure how familiar you are with like the Frank Miller run of Daredevil. Do you think? What do you think? Do you think they'll actually do with Karen? They're going to have Karen Page go down the route of, like, she became addicted to drugs in that run. You
Yeah,
think they're going to do
I
that?
remember that. I don't think so. Like, we are seeing her flip on Matt a bit, like,
Yeah.
which isn't new for her. Like, going
No.
back to when she killed Wesley in season
Yes.
1, like, she is, the thing that keeps her attracted to Matt and to Frank Castle is that, she is somewhere between both of them,
That's a good,
when it
point analogy. Yeah.
yeah, like, morally speaking, she is somewhere in between. She is like, I'm not gonna not kill anyone just because I don't want to kill them, but at the same time, she is not ruthless to kill anyone just because she wants to kill them, which is Frank's way.
Yeah.
Although you can argue that he doesn't really kill anyone, but not according to Daredevil.
Yeah. Yeah. Karen Page is kind of in this weird place morally. You're very right. She's in some nebulous region between Matt Murdock and Frank Castle. The thing is, I don't even think she understands where the lines are. She kind of just draws them as she goes along. But the thing is, she does seem to have. She's not someone who will, like, go full Punisher, but she's not someone who, like Matt. He's still somewhat driven by his faith. He still has like, more so, almost as much as Batman. He has a very strict rule about taking a life. But Karen, one thing that I think is different with Frank and that is Karen. She was very much a victim. She never asked to be, like, caught in the crossfire. Essentially, throughout this show, she got pretty much punished for trying to do the right thing, and that's kind of, she didn't set out to fight this fight. She got caught up in it because she just for doing the right thing, and I think that's an interesting way to frame her, because now she's in this situation. She can't get out of it. I don't think she wants to. I think she wants to do what Matt won't do, but she came very close. I mean, that moment with her and Bullseye,
Yep.
I was like, the fact that Matt had to stop her shows she was ready. She was willing. She wanted to end him.
The
And
shot was actually fired.
yeah, it was.
I
Yeah, that shocked me too. I really thought she wasn't going to do that, but I think
Mm.
I think that shows what's going to happen to Karen if Matt's not around next time.
No, I just, like, to me, I think that she's not gonna do it, and there's nothing that's gonna change about her. But it's just that there is a difference between knowing that Bullseye is out there and that they want to stop him, and him being tied to a bed right next to her. That brings up feelings and things that normally wouldn't come out.
Yeah.
So, like, it's gonna be interesting to see how they get out of this situation, because we know that Karen is in season 3 as well as Bullseye. So
Yeah.
thankfully, we're not losing anyone at this
Yeah.
point. Like,
Yeah.
so that's what I think, really. Speaking of people returning in season 3, do you want to talk about the other league that I sent you today?
Just a moment before we get to that.
Sure.
I wanted to ask, where do you think Bullseye's story is going? Because he's a lot more complex in this show than he is in most other shows.
I honestly don't know. Like, the thing about Bullseye is that he's similar to the Joker. You can take him in any direction you want,
Yeah.
because he's kind of crazy. So you just have to make it make sense.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, I think that's a good view. I honestly don't know. I think at the way the show is going now, they've kind of steadily let him kind of become more and more unhinged. Like that scene where he killed someone with his tooth by spitting a tooth. That's something
Yep.
he's done. He's done. He can do that. I think there's something in the comics. He actually killed someone with a paper airplane.
Yep. I
I think,
remember that.
and I, I also at some point in the comics he gets like an adamantium skeleton. I know they probably can't do that in this show, but he
Mm,
does end up getting some level of enhancement. And I'm wondering if maybe that's something that will be explored in the next season. I know they want to keep this sort of as a street level show, but I do think something's going to happen with that with Bullseye in that regard because he is just kind of he's becoming less and less stable with each passing episode.
yep. I think that it's gonna be interesting to see where they take him next.
Mm-hmm.
Because like with season 3 of the original show ending, he was like super anti-Fisk. He wanted to kill Fisk because
Yeah.
Fisk killed his girlfriend.
Yeah.
But then with season 1 of Born Again, you see him making a deal with Fisk to come out of prison. And that deal was to kill Fabian Nelson and get his freedom. And the next thing you do know that out of nowhere, he's back in prison. So he's like, okay, I'm gonna kill the Kingpin or Vanessa or maybe both. So,
One for
they
two.
can, yep, they can go into many interesting directions. I think that, there is nothing that's gonna be weirder than sort of making him an angel, which happened in the Chip Zdarsky run.
Yeah.
Which we can say that they are adapting for season 3 as well. Like they are adapted a lot of elements from it from in season 1 and 2. And it seems like they're gonna take more of that in season 3.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. We'll see what comes with that. But now I'm actually looking at the pictures you sent me with Heather.
Yep.
And that is a really cool mask effect right there. I'm looking at it right now. That's gonna look so cool when we finally see like the first footage. So I really like
Yep.
that. I'm wondering if she's gonna end up sort of similar to Karen in that she's gonna want to go further than Matt, but maybe not as far as Frank Castle. So it's interesting that those two are kind of like the two the ends of the spectrum here, and Karen and then Heather is going to be kind of trying to navigate everything in between. I don't know if
Yep.
that's sort of intentional, but I like that dynamic because it does sort of play with us, the audience's notion of, okay, now where's the line? And if no one can figure out we know where the extremes are, but where is the line? And
Yep.
that's it's tough because it's very blurry.
Yep. And I think it's gonna be interesting because, the direction they are taking, it's similar to two different storylines, but it's sort of new as well. So in the comics, I don't know if you read that or not, Heather went crazy because of dating Matt and other stuff, and she ended up committing suicide.
Yeah.
She never became a villain or anything. She just committed suicide.
Yeah.
And when season 1 of Born Again was coming out, Muse was everywhere because he was the villain of season 1 and whatnot. So one of the things that happened in the synergy of Marvel Comics with the show was that they introduced a new villain version of Muse, a female version, who is basically haunted by the dead original Muse. The comics went into a direction of like he is in hell, but he is controlling this new Muse, or he is like acting like the devil to her.
Yeah.
I don't think that we'll see that to that extent in the show, but we saw that in episode 1. Like we saw
White
Heather
Tiger.
and we saw Heather, being haunted by Muse, the memory
Yeah.
of Muse. So I
Yeah.
can see them taking the inspiration from the recent
Yeah.
comics by Erica Schultz while making it more psychological and less mystical.
That could work because it would again. It would. I haven't followed I don't know the comic run as well, but I do know that she went nuts, plain and simple. And some of it, she blames Matt, of course, but at the same time, he's not entirely responsible. And she's very misguided in terms of where she directs her madness. It'd be interesting to see, how they deal with that because I know Matt tends to have a lot of different effects on women,
Yep.
better for positive and negative. We could probably make a whole podcast on how Matt Murdock has affected the women in his life. Heather is kind of, she's a very, very close to a worst case scenario. If, I don't know if that's the right, if it would be the worst, but I like that they're kind of letting her have her own arc. Matt was the catalyst, but I don't think he was the
Yeah.
cause.
Yeah. He wasn't the cause, or more accurately, according to Heather, he is not the cause at all. Because, like, as far as she's concerned, she just knows that Matt disappeared and she wants to know where he is. That's
Mhm.
basically where we left things off with her in season
Mhm.
one and where things continued in season two. She doesn't know that he's Daredevil. She doesn't know anything about,
Yeah.
whatever he's doing. Like, the worst thing that she can accuse him of is that he defended some vigilantes like Hector
Yes.
Ayala or the Punisher before him.
Yeah. And
So,
he
yep,
was yeah, you could argue he's doing his job. And Matt will always say, I do this to protect you. I'm trying to do the right thing. And some people say that as, well, you still lied to me. And others will say, well, you're still did this or didn't do this. And it's very the thing about that the show loves to play with is it's hard to look at things in a black and white manner. I mean, Matt tries because of his faith, but even when he tries, it doesn't always work.
yeah,
And I think that fits for the comics too. Matt has in the comics, seems to admit many times he's not a very good Catholic. He just tries. He tries.
yep. Yeah, I mean, he's the guy that led three of his wives slash girlfriends to die because of his life, his messy life.
Yeah.
Like, we have Heather, who committed suicide. We have Karen, who was killed. I can't remember who killed her at this
Yeah.
point. And his wife
Electra.
from the Bendis run, Elektra, so four. And
Yeah.
I think that his wife from the Bendis run, I can't remember her name currently. But she also, like, went crazy. She was in an asylum and then she
Yeah.
died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the Matt Murdock effect for you.
Yep. And at the time, like, his wife was in a hospital and he was like having an affair with what's her name, Dakota Johnson?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, that detective. So,
Not a
like,
good. He's not a
yeah,
good Catholic.
Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah. That reminds me of that scene with Elizabeth Olsen. I can't remember the show it was from.
Yeah.
Like, I think you see it all the time on Twitter. Like,
Yeah. I think I know which one you're talking about.
yeah, it reminds me of that. That's Matt Murdock.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of why it's endearing to him. Yeah. He is very he has strong moral lines when it comes to like
Lies.
justice, but when it comes to women, he is below average to say the least. When it comes to his judgment, that's the nicest way I could put it.
Yeah. And I think that this show highlights that really well. Like, when
Yeah.
you see like Karen going crazy at him, and then later when he's confronting Fisk, he's
Yeah.
like, this game we're stuck in, we cannot let go of it. And if we keep it up, we'll lose everyone. So, like, of course, like, Matt in the show, despite how much he lost, he hasn't lost as much as the comics counterpart lost.
Yes.
But, if he continues, you don't know what's gonna happen to him.
Yeah.
And of course, as we've seen with Jessica, you can always turn things upside down and things
Yeah.
can go well for him
Yeah.
because, Matt Murdock does not need to be that gritty person
Yeah.
who can never have fun or anything. We've seen the Mark Waid run, for example, in recent history. Like, it's almost Spider-Man like run, Or so yeah, like, I'm excited to see what comes next for Matt.
Yeah.
We have Danny Rand coming back. We have Luke Cage coming back.
Yep.
Jessica Jones came back and
Yeah, I was
she
happy to
was
see her again.
phenomenal.
I
Like,
loved Jessica Jones. Yeah.
yep, like, seeing Jess like portrayed like that makes me happy because, like,
Yeah.
the way we left Jessica off, like, she lost her sister, she was not with Luke or anyone, she was an alcoholic, she was still struggling with depression and everything,
Yeah.
that's that her life
That's a
caused her to
Tuesday.
have. Yeah, because being a victim of rape and all of that stuff, like, you couldn't see Jessica being a mother or having a family or being
Yeah.
a normal happy person. But the first scene you see of her in this season
Yeah.
is her
With-
beating the shit out of bad guys, which is fun to see. And you
and
didn't
she
really
enjoyed it.
see.
You could tell she enjoyed it.
Yep, she definitely enjoyed it. But the next thing that happened is that, she defused the slowest bomb on Earth
Yeah.
in the end of her child, which, I'll be
Don't
honest.
play with that. Yeah, that was
Yep.
hilarious.
Honestly, I thought that the bomb would explode and, Danielle wouldn't be hurt because,
Yeah.
Of
She's
cour-
Jessica. Yeah. She's Jessica's.
She's Jessica and Luke's kid, like,
Yeah,
nothing on Luke.
yeah, yeah. That
So
would be that would have been funny too. But Jessica Jones is as dark as her story is. Her attitude and the way she carries herself. It's funny in a dark sort of way, but it's kind of she kind of brings some balance to the show that we haven't really had for a while. And yeah, because Foggy used to play that role. And now he's gone.
mm,
We've got, but I think Jessica, seeing her again, it was very refreshing. I've always liked I really liked the Netflix show before it ended, and I'm glad she's back into the fold here.
absolutely. One of the things I like this show makes me want to see more and more is how much the relationship between the Defenders members and the
Hmm.
street level heroes developed over the years, because
Hmm.
last time we saw them together it was like 2018, and right now in the
Yeah,
Marvel universe it's like 2028.
yeah.
So we're talking about a decade between then and now, and how did things evolve between them? Luke and what's his name and Danny Rand were barely friends the last time we saw him, and right now Luke has a kid named after Danny
Yeah,
Rand.
it's
So
pretty crazy. Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm excited to see how things go with that. Speaking of that, who do you think Charles is? Because like, to me, I thought that he was that shady government guy, but at the same time, we got Jessica talking about Luke working for him,
Yeah.
and Luke is everything. Like, he's anti-drugs,
Yeah.
anti all of that stuff, especially because he's a guy from Harlem. He protects people from that stuff. Like, that's been his whole arc in the Netflix show. So I
Yeah.
don't see him, smuggling drugs and weapons, even for
Hmm.
the government. So what do you think is that about, and all of that stuff?
I think it's somewhat tied to Valentina Fontaine. Do you think she was mentioned earlier? I think in an
Yep.
earlier episode. If I think he's somehow connected to her. I don't know how, but there's some. I think this takes place after Thunderbolt slash New
Yes.
Avengers. I think what they're trying to do is like have sort of like a shadow army. Yeah, like the Thunderbolts, the New Avengers. They're the public face of this of DeFontaine's team, but she also has other things that she wants to keep, in the shadows on the down low. And I do think this guy, Charles, I don't think that's his name, by the way. I think that's a code name. And
Absolutely.
I think he's working with her. He's doing something like they're preparing for something they don't want the public to know about. And I don't know, maybe it has something to do with the Department of Damage Control, because we know for a fact that they're going to be part of the next Spider-Man movie. Damage
Yep.
Control has already been they were in No Way Home,
Yep. And Wonder Man
and
season
Wonder
two
Man
as
2.
well. Season 1 and 2.
So I think Valeria DeFontaine is the kind of the one sort of pulling the strings. She's probably the one who's organizing Damage Control, and whatever they're doing in this show, what Charles is doing. I think they are ramping up their efforts. I think they have ideas they want Damage Control to be something even bigger, and I don't know if it'll play out in this show. Maybe it'll be hinted at. Maybe it'll be a teaser that leads into what happens with the Punisher and with Spider-Man Brand New Day. But Damage Control is one of those kind of, I think this has to do, they might not say the words damage control, but I think it's tied to what's going on with that.
Yep.
That's my theory.
It's just interesting to see that Damage Control wants to arrest and imprison all of these superpower beings, but at the same time they want to employ the quote
Yeah.
unquote heroes for hire, because
Yes.
that's the Easter egg, and to do whatever they are doing for them. And at the same time, I cannot see the heroes for hire doing something for villains, or even something
Exactly.
villainous.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm interested to see how this season wraps up,
Uh-huh.
because we know now from the set leaks that Danny Rand and Luke Cage are in the final episode, at least,
Yeah.
maybe even the last two episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see how it goes. And of course, season 3, we have them coming back. We
Mm-hmm.
know that the actress who portrayed Colleen Wing was on set. She talked about being on set of Daredevil Born
Mm-hmm.
Again. We don't know if she is a part of the show or not. She obviously said she wasn't, but
Of course, she said she would. Yeah.
like, the other guys are in there and you were on set. So
Yeah. Why else would you be? Were you delivering coffee?
yep. So that's exciting, honestly. And
Yeah.
so I'm just excited like for the Daredevil and the street level Marvel heroes and
Yeah.
side of things at this point.
That's been great for the most
Yep.
part. Yeah, I do like that they're kind of focusing more on some of the street level stuff than like the multiverse stuff.
Yep. And I think that this is one of the things that makes me like when people talk about the reboot post Secret Wars, I keep saying that it's gonna be a soft reboot in which like you bring back a couple of characters or anything, and it's not gonna be something major
Mhm.
because they keep building this universe and they want this universe to continue.
Yeah.
Like as we talked about earlier, Daredevil, like the Netflix shows were not canon, and they were made canon
Mhm.
last year when they were making Daredevil Born Again season
Mhm.
one. So like they made that canon for a reason. They keep
Yeah.
bringing back the characters for a reason. And even like shows like Echo and She-Hulk, which were not well received,
Mhm.
they contributed to that aspect of the street level
Yeah.
side of things. Like you had Kingpin involved with Echo. You had She-Hulk introduce the Wrecking Crew. You had
Yeah.
her reintroduce Daredevil and other stuff. So
Mhm.
I think that Marvel is not gonna abandon that at any point. So it's like they're definitely not
Mhm.
gonna reboot like hard reboots. And
Yeah.
of course, they're not gonna get rid of Spider-Man. Like he's
They can't.
the biggest
Yeah.
thing. So that's all like that all is exciting. And I honestly don't have anything else to say about Daredevil. Do you have anything to add?
No, I just want to add that I think damage control is sort of the underlying thread that's kind of it's the connective tissue between this and what's going to happen with Punisher and Spider-Man, maybe Doomsday. I kind of doubt it, but I think damage control is going to sort of become this like sort of like what Hydra was in the earlier phases, except the
Yeah.
difference is they're more of a internal thing. Hydra was very much like it's your stereotypical evil organization. So that's what I think.
Yeah, I think that we are gonna see a mix of Hydra and a mix of, fear of superpower beings because,
Mhm.
that can tie easily into X-Men, as we have seen in
Yeah.
Wonder Man. They're
Yes.
keeping him like the mutants and everyone else. And, they are also tying into Devil's Reign in the comics,
Hmm.
the Kingpin act that, as we are seeing in this show, like he's arresting everyone, including, anyone with superpowers. So
Yeah.
it's definitely like damage control is definitely gonna be important, even if it's not quote unquote damage control, but more of the government's important, like being important. We'll definitely see that. We know that one of the first projects after Secret Wars is Black Panther 3.
Yes.
And we know from Black Panther 2 that Allegra de Fontaine is gonna go to like she wants to go to some sort of a war with Wakanda. And at the same time, we have whatever like the stuff that happened with Captain America at the end of like Captain
Yeah.
America 4 with the Hulk being the president and
Yeah.
the new Avengers. Will we introduce a new Thunderbolts team or not?
Yeah.
Probably because you have the characters like I
Yeah.
think even what's his name Wilson, the guy
Sam
who plays
Wilson.
no, the guy who plays Bullseye, his real name, I'm forgetting his real name. His first name is Wilson, but he
Hmm.
talked about wanting to play the character in a Thunderbolts movie.
I would. Yeah.
Ju-
Wouldn't mind. Yeah.
so
See,
like
that'd be an interesting. He could be the new Hawkeye, but maybe that's where he would get his official Bullseye outfit. Like,
yeah,
because he doesn't really because other than the time he was wearing the Daredevil
Daredevil
costume,
suit.
he doesn't have a costume. Like
Yeah,
he doesn't have his classic Bullseye costume, and I would love to see him get one of those. I think he'd look cool in that.
I think he is still acting as a regular FBI agent slash assassin, and
Hmm.
less of a like other than like if you remove the Bullseye code name of the equation, he's just a regular assassin FBI
Yep.
agent and nothing more yet. Maybe enhanced because season 3 ended with him being enhanced, but no, I don't know
Hmm.
why the show doesn't want to acknowledge that. Like they hint at it because he survived the fall that no one should survive and everything like that, and he
Hmm.
broke his back in season 3 of Daredevil.
Hmm.
You know, so like they keep hinting at it, but they don't want to give him like real superpowers, and I honestly don't know why.
Hmm. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Absolutely. And speaking of that, one of the things that Jonathan Hickman did with the Kingpin in the Ultimate Universe that I
Hmm.
always wondered why they never made with Kingpin in the Netflix show as well as the mainline comics is confirming that the Kingpin has powers because the Kingpin he's canonically a human, like a regular human,
Yeah.
but his strength is always like he always shows feet
Superhuman.
that like he is superhuman. He's definitely not Captain America or like
Yeah.
the guy who can lift a car with like with one hand or whatever, but like making him have some sort of like low level super strength would make a lot of sense.
Hmm.
And I don't know why they never do like care to explain that, because we've seen him kill guys with his bare hands
Yeah.
multiple times. We've seen him break walls, like I think I saw with season 3, and again the fight with Matt, the last episode,
Hmm.
like he just punched the wall instead of punching Matt,
Yeah.
like, and it hurt like hell, but he just broke a brick of wall. Like that's not normal. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Kingpin is dangerous enough without superpowers. I think that's one of the reasons why it's like why they don't give Batman superpowers. He's dangerous enough without them.
He has superpowers. He
Yeah,
has Tony Stark's superpowers.
yeah,
where their
that's
suits.
a good way
Yeah,
of putting
like
it.
yeah, Tony Stark doesn't have powers, but he does build a suit called the Hulk Buster that goes
Mm.
toe to toe with the Hulk. So,
Mm.
and Batman. Like I was just listening to an episode covering DCKO. Like the guy has a suit with a boom tube in it. So
Yeah, that's pretty that's excessive, but in character.
yep, absolutely. So moving on, let me look at the topics we have real quickly here,
Sure.
because we have a few topics that we want to discuss.
Yeah.
Why don't we start with something that you are interested in and you're more well versed in, and it's Marvel Rivals.
Yes.
There has been a lot of talks about it, and about Jean Grey recently. So why don't you like explain to us, people like me who don't play the game, what's happening, and take us through the new updates and everything.
Well, I haven't played Marvel Rivals in a while. Again, I've been sick and busy. Marvel Rivals is kind of its own universe. It's not a full universe like in the like Ultimate or Absolute DC, but it's a distinct Marvel universe where it's very much overseen by Galacta, the daughter of Galactus. She's kind of like the overarching narrator of the whole of this world, of everyone who enters it. One of the things that has been unfolding for the past, like every season kind of has a different theme. Like Fakura was a theme at one point. They had a cosmic theme at one point. What they've kind of brought in recently is they want some more street levels. They got the Black Cat involved, who is and she has some very funny dialogue with Spider-Man. They did mention Mary Jane a few times, but the game does a good job of trying to blend some of the dynamics between certain characters and certain teammates. Like you could like when Daredevil and the Punisher interact, they definitely have some like specific dialogue. It's you can tell that they've had a history. Same with Captain America and Wolverine. But one of the things they've been hinting at for a while now is they teased bringing in Cyclops, like he was in the Gambit and Rogue teaser. They've also talked about Daredevil, of course. But if you wanted to kind of know what the story is behind this game, what's going on outside the gameplay, unfolds in a comic that you can only read through Marvel Unlimited. Like I have a subscription to that because I got young nieces and nephews that love Jeff the Land Shark. Like they love everything about Jeff the Land Shark. Every time I see them, they want me to read a Jeff the Land Shark comic. They think he's the great. They think he's better than Baby Yoda. Which of course he's in that game, and that they love that too. But yeah, Marvel Rivals has sort of it kind of goes through um different like there's like this the background story that kind of precedes the gameplay. It unfolds in that comic, um and the, like the last arc I left off on was when Blade first joined. I haven't been able to keep up much for the past couple weeks, but yeah, I do. The thing about that game that like I have played it occasionally, but that game is very difficult to get really good at. It's one of those games where if you play the games like Overwatch or Counter Strike, you could probably do pretty well. But for someone like me, it's very limited. Like, you have to have like a really good controller or mouse and keyboard skills, which mine are still developing.
Yep.
There we go.
I feel that, I was just asking because, it has been the hot topic for Marvel for a long time,
Yeah.
like surpassing the MCU in certain segments online.
Yeah.
And more recently, we have seen a lot of comics synergizing with
Yes.
Marvel rivals. And of course, as a person who does not play the game and does not know a lot about the game, I just learned about that stuff from, Twitter and social media. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know that the concept of the Queen in Black is a Marvel rivals concept
Yeah.
until someone mentioned it.
Yeah. Well, the reason the game has become so popular, one, it's free to play. It's on every platform, whether you have an Xbox, a PlayStation, or if you're playing it on Steam. Another thing is the character designs for this game are incredible. I would say they're better than, like, I don't know if you played the Insomniac Spider-Man game,
Yep.
or they're definitely better than some of the other, like, free to play, like Marvel Strike Force. Yeah, or they definitely are. They're more polished. That, like, I played. There was the Marvel Cosmic Invasion game. That's kind of like that old arcade style game.
Yeah, I remember that name.
Those games are all fun, but this one definitely, it's very distinct in terms of the character designs, what their costumes look like. In fact, they also break in so many variants. They have classic Fantastic Four. They have, like, the Fantastic Four costumes you saw in the movies. I think that I don't know if they have one for the Maker yet. I think they're going to make him a separate character if they bring him to the game. Yeah, I think they also have, like, Professor Hulk. That's like his costume skin, and just the aesthetics of the game, as well as that they have a the story that unfolds in the comic and the Unlimited comics, very easy to follow. It's not really complicated, not super dramatic or anything, but it's one of those things where you don't have to know much about Marvel to follow along. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's become so popular, because you don't have to dig into all the continuity. You don't have to know too much about the lore. You can just pick it up and go with it. Plus, it's a fun game if you
Yeah.
get good at it, which I am not.
I think that, it was interesting to see like Marvel, marketing it more than any other games that Marvel
Yeah,
has released over the years,
yeah,
Like we got a video of Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio playing the game with
I
some
believe it.
people like no, it wasn't in an interview. I can't remember with
Oh,
which platform, comic book or someone, like some of those like big comic sites, and they were like, here's a controller, a PS controller, and just jump right in. And like, I think Vincent D'Onofrio was the one playing, and he was like, am I playing with other people? And the
yeah,
interviewer was like, yes. And then, okay, those people are gonna be nuts if they learn that they are playing with the real Kingpin. So like,
they
it
are.
was,
Yeah,
yeah, like it's interesting to see like Marvel promoting it that way. You don't see
hmm
them promoting any other games like that.
yeah,
Even even their big games, like you didn't see anyone playing Insomniac Spider-Man or the recent Avengers game or the Guardians of the Galaxy game.
yeah. Yeah, that's
You
kind of
know,
strange, because the Guardians of the Galaxy game was pretty cool. I liked that game, but I understand why the Avengers game didn't pan out. That game had
yep,
that game was during the
the poor mother
Inhuman,
era.
yeah, the Inhumans replacing the mutants era, and
Yep,
that has had a lot of baggage that was never going to last.
yep,
And the story was not exactly great,
yep.
but
And the
yeah,
gameplay as well. Like, I think that compared to Spider-Man, like two Spider-Man games that were out at the time, and they were teasing the Wolverine game at the time, and like,
mhm,
you just get this game that's not so easy to play and not fun to play.
yeah,
Like that was an issue. Like, I definitely see Insomniac doing the Avengers games in the near future. Similar to
mhm,
Spider-Man and Wolverine, and
yeah,
and let's
eh,
see what they do with the Wolverine game, not the Wolverine, the Venom game, because some
yeah.
rumors say
I
that they
thought it got
canceled it.
canceled.
Yeah, some rumors say that, but other rumors are saying that the rumor that it's canceled is false. So we will see how it goes.
Well, I've heard it. I heard it was canceled. I don't know if that's confirmed or if that's just a rumor, but
Yep.
if it is canceled, not too surprised. Yeah, the Insomniac game, at least for the Spider-Man, that was a good overall Spider-Man story, and really and solid overall gameplay. But the thing about that game, it's linear. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Marvel Rivals doesn't have an end. It's a combat-based game, so it could, in theory, go on for years and years and years. And all they have to do is keep introducing new characters to keep players engaged. Like
Yep.
when they introduced Daredevil and when they introduced Kingpin, and And of course they brought the whole Fantastic Four in when the Fantastic Four movie came out. So I imagine when Doomsday comes out, they will
Bring more characters.
bring some of those kids. Maybe they'll bring Doom because he has been mentioned a number of times in the game.
Cyclops, I've seen some of the teasers for
Yeah,
Cyclops, and I think that even there were some controversies around Emma Frost and Jean Grey recently in the game, and one
yeah,
of the things that came out was the teaser that called her Jean Grey Ellen Summers. So at least we
yeah. I
know they
saw
are
that.
married in that universe. That's awesome.
Yeah, she does mention Cyclops a number of times in some dialogue. I've played the game. I've heard some of that dialogue. Like I think in the current story as it stands, Cyclops is missing. A lot of it's with some other characters, but I do think that yeah, he was teased in with the Gambit Rogue release. So I think it's only a matter of time before he shows up. And I can't think of who else was teased. I know Doom keeps getting mentioned, but he's one of those characters that's rumored to show up, but he never does seem to show up. So maybe that's something they'll wait for Doomsday to take care of. Well, I guess I think what usually when Spider-Man Brand New Day drops, we'll get something else into the mix because Marvel Rivals does like to, like they did with Fantastic Four, they like to sort of play off of what's happening with the MCU and the comics.
Yeah. I think, to me, it's interesting to see the media getting the comic characters right, but the comics not doing so. Like, I've I've looked up some of the gameplay for Jean and other stuff, and I'm like, if we got this Jean Grey in the comics, like everything will be fine. Like
Yeah,
she is the Phoenix, but you also see the Phoenix as a separate avatar behind her all the
yeah,
time. And but at the same time, they are not confusing it at all. Like
yeah,
they are different, but they are bonded, and at the same time, she's not too overpowered. As you
yeah,
said, like Scott is missing, and she is looking for him, but she can't find him. They're keeping her powers in check to not make her super OP in a
yeah,
way that makes her, a Mary Sue, a character that you cannot
yeah,
write or do anything with.
yeah.
So I don't know why they're not doing that in the comics, but they seem to have got their shit in other media, which is great for me.
Yeah, so it's at least it's an example that it can be done. It's just, do you want to put the work in? And right now, it doesn't look like anyone wants to put the work in. And by the
Yeah,
way, before we go forward, I
sure.
wanted to comment briefly. I know I wasn't here last week, but last week that was when the firings were announced, when Disney had all those
Yep,
layoffs, and that affected Marvel Studios. It also affected some editors at Marvel Comics. I do want to say a few things about that, if I may.
sure.
Now, the way that it goes, my opinion of this is, I think this is part of a longer term strategy that I think going back to Ike Perlmutter, that's something that he was trying to pursue at some point. If you remember Ike Perlmutter before, when he was CEO of Marvel, there wasn't a whole lot known about him, but one thing he liked to do was, and this is kind of apocryphal, he would fire people just to see if they could keep functioning without them, which is not a good thing to do as a boss, but he was known for being that ruthless. And I think what Disney is trying to do is they're trying to do something similar, in that they want to see, how much can they get away with losing these people. And I also think they want to move less and less towards like having writers like Chris Claremont, who was with Marvel for years, or with someone like Jonathan Hickman, or some other of these established writers. I think with their vision for how they'll handle Marvel Comics is it's basically going to be one or two people sitting behind a desk, and their only job is to make calls to license these characters to certain writers, so that writing X-Men, Spider-Man, Daredevil is basically going to be like a gig work. Of course, they still maintain control, but I think that's what they want to do. And personally, I think that would be a creatively, that would not work long. That'd be one of those. It would essentially make it so that Marvel would not have to care much about the vision. They would just say, okay, this person wants to write them. They would hire writers the same way you and I would hire a taxi or an
Yep.
Uber. And if that's the only calculus they're doing, then they're going to lose something.
Yep.
I think I think these firings aren't like, that's not changing things it's not immediately making that the new norm. I think that these firings are a step in that direction. They want the sandbox they created to be sort of like a club and they get to choose who comes in and works temporarily and then who leaves. That's my theory of what they're trying to do. And I think it's in the long run, it's going to be a mistake, but in the short term, this is how they're going to call it, they're going to frame it as streamlining. And it's going to be sort of what Ike Perlmutter would do and say, they're trying to say, oh, can we get by without these people? And if the answer is yes, they're just going to keep it that way. And I do worry that because they did this once, they're going to keep doing it, not all at once. It's going to be like a slow drip, but we're not going to notice it all at once. But it's going to be one of those things where 5, 6, maybe 10 years from now, when we look at the way the comics are handled and compare it to what it was in the past, it's going to be like, oh man, we didn't even notice it getting this bad, and now it's too late. That's what I think.
I think that like for this we'll have to wait and see, especially because Disney is getting a new CEO soon. If they
Yes.
haven't already got a new one, I'm not in the loop with that for that. So let's see how it goes. But
Mhm.
I honestly hate the firings, but at the same time, like, and I don't want to say this to sound mean or anything because the firings are bad. People lost their
Yeah.
jobs. They're like they can put food on the table. Like there
Mhm.
is weird issues that we shall not celebrate as human beings. But as a fan, who has been struggling for years with the way Marvel has
Mhm.
been handling characters overall, I think that they needed a change. That's
Mhm.
not the change that I wanted to see,
Yeah.
but they definitely need a change.
Yeah.
The marketing department needs a change. Like they need to change how
Yeah.
they market their books because it has been awful for years now. Like what, almost 10 years of that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
yeah,
You're right. They did need change, but not like this.
yep. And we also have, of course, the quality of comics. Like, I'm excited for what comes next because I think that Marvel knows that they fell hard and that they need to I hate to use this word, but they want to streamline things. And that's
Mhm.
what Chip Zdarsky talked about recently,
Mhm.
how he and Hickman will be streamlining the comics, like
Yeah.
the whole Marvel line in the near future. Obviously, we don't know what's gonna happen post Armageddon, but it seems
Yeah.
like that's gonna be the new thing that leads to whatever else is happening.
Yeah.
Chip is building something,
Mhm.
Jonathan Hickman is doing his other thing, and at the same time, we have the X-Men doing whatever, God knows what. And
Mhm.
it's kind of crazy that in the middle of Armageddon and Queen in Black, we get a new X-Men Fantastic Four event. Like, what the fuck is happening here?
I know. If
Three
they're trying
events
to,
at the
yeah,
same time?
if they're streamlining it, they're doing it in a very erratic way.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, and it's kind of like they're setting up some stuff to fill because as well as I do that the real event that they're gonna focus on is Armageddon. It's
Mhm.
not Queen in Black. It's not whatever else comes out of Queen in Black. It's not DNX. It's absolutely
Yeah.
Avengers Armageddon or
Yeah, I agree.
Armageddon. Yeah. And I honestly don't know what to feel because I was talking to Nick Ritchie from Geekable recently, and we are
Mhm.
talking about these three events and how they all have book creators, but we don't see two of the three events succeeding. We don't see Queen in Black succeeding or DNX.
Yeah.
They can be good stories, and they can definitely sell, especially like one of them will have a number one in Queen and Black and event and whatnot, and the other one is X-Men, but it will probably like they will probably suffer quality wise to
Yeah.
some extent.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm not sure how something like an event like Armageddon will shake things up or cause things to streamline. And the fact that you have an event like Armageddon, you have DNX and Queen in Black all kind of going, none of these events really seem to be, they don't fit, they don't mesh. Like, it's very hard to know what the vision is here. It's very scattershot, if that's the
Yep.
right word.
Yep. If they have played it right, they could have had Armageddon and DNX like be one event that's like big for the Avengers, Fantastic Four, and X-Men because they are going in similar directions. Like you have
Mhm.
DNX dealing with what Judd McKay has been doing with 3K experimenting on people. And at the same time, we literally have Armageddon and Weapon Plus returning to experiment on people using Ultimate Universe tech.
Mhm. Yeah.
So like it's the same premise in two different events. Like there could have been a way to streamline them into one event, even if it was a big 60 issue event. We know that those things like
Oh, rare.
they are not rare, and they sometimes do more harm than good. But
Yeah.
overall, the main events themselves, like the 10-issue arc main series, as well as Avengers,
Mhm.
X-Men, and Fantastic Four, would sell well regardless of if Thunderbolts Armageddon doesn't sell well.
Mhm.
So they could have done that. I don't know why they didn't do that. And it sounds stupid, but let's wait and see how things go. We don't have long now to wait. Like, I think Armageddon starts in a month.
Yeah. Thinking about,
And
yeah, that sounds about right.
yeah. And we also have, like, whatever happens with the Ultimate Universe is gonna come out of Armageddon as well, because we
Yeah.
have the Ultimate Reborn by Chris Condon,
Yeah.
which is so far is just a tie-in of sorts to Armageddon.
Mhm.
But we know from Chip Zdarsky that Tim and Hickman, as they are streamlining the comics, they are talking.
Mhm.
And, the Marvel Universe as a whole is talking again, which is cool to see. Like, Chip Zdarsky talked about
Yeah.
how he's in constant communication with Josh Williamson on Iron Man. And, Philip Kennedy Johnson
Yeah.
is doing a big event in the next year, if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
Infernal Hulk.
I don't remember what the timeline was but I think they're usually going. They're probably try to coincide it with well, with some of the stuff that's going on in the MCU, and I think they're going to definitely try to coincide streamlining things with what happens with Doomsday and Secret Wars.
Yeah. I think they are playing with the Doomsday tie, like, synergy these days. Like, we have we had a Doctor Doom event recently.
Yeah.
We have two Doctor Doom comics coming out. One is by Al Ewing, which is bi-monthly, which I think is a horrible decision because it will sell horribly. Like, listen, bi-monthly comics do not sell well.
Yeah, they don't.
That's what killed Imperial.
Yeah.
Marvel banked that Jonathan Hickman would sell Imperial, making the comic, like, stretching into weird times that's not monthly or weekly. That's
Mhm.
what killed Imperial, and that's gonna kill Al Ewing's Doom that's coming out soon. We also have Ryan North doing Doom,
Yeah.
12-issue miniseries, or maxi,
I'm
I
more
should
excited
say.
about that. I think that could be that has more interest than a bi-monthly Doom comic because I don't.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just because bi-monthly comics are easy to forget about. I know. I know it's used to. I remember I'm old enough to remember when, like, certain comics would just get delayed. Like the original Ultimates, when Miller and Hitch were on the original Ultimates, there would be immense delays in between. The same thing happened with Astonishing X-Men under Joss Whedon.
Yeah.
We would go months without a new issue. But whenever it did come out, it was an event. That's because we
Yeah.
knew it was going to have something important. Every other lately, and by lately, I mean the past like 5-6 years, bi-monthly issues, they don't have that same feeling. Every issue isn't an event the way those comics were.
Yeah, I think that the most recent examples are two by my favorite writer, but I think that DC was screwing with him. And they are Doomsday Clock and JSA by Jeff Johns. They
Yeah.
suffered from that
I
greatly.
like Doomsday Clock. Yeah.
Like, Doomsday Clock ultimately sold well,
Yeah.
but the delays kept changing a lot of things, because I
Yeah.
don't know if you remember, a lot of things in different DC titles were building towards Doomsday Clock. And
Yeah.
when it kept being delayed, a lot of writers had to change
Yeah.
their plots drastically. Like, one of the things that is almost confirmed at this point is that Mr. Oz in the Superman comics by Dan Jurgens was supposed to be Ozymandias.
Yeah.
But because of the delays, Jurgens had to come up with this crazy idea that he's Jor-El being, back from the past.
Yeah.
And, there were others. I think Robert Venditti talked about his Green Lantern title being
Mhm.
affected by that. And we had, what else? There was something else major. Of course,
Mhm.
the return of the JSA, and, like, a lot of stuff that was set up to happen did not ultimately happen because of
Yeah.
the delays. And, that sucks. Of course, like, at the time Geoff Johns was running DC Comics, he was running the movie universe, he was
Yeah.
producing the Arrowverse,
He
he
was
was
doing too
producing every
much.
show. Like, he was basically Kevin Feige right now. Like, he was doing
Yeah.
everything, and
But
that's
not
why
as good.
nothing worked. Like, you
Yeah.
stretched the man too thin.
Yeah. I respect his desire to really, to have the same thing. But Kevin Feige focuses on movies. That's where his strong suit is. Jeff
Yep,
Johns was trying to focus on movies. He was trying to focus on comics. He was trying to focus on TV. I
yep,
don't care how talented you are. You can't do all three. You could
yep,
focus on one,
absolutely.
not all three. And he
Yep.
kind of screwed himself over by pushing himself like that.
Absolutely. I think
Yeah.
Marvel was most successful when they had three different people running everything. Like,
Yeah.
for I know people don't like him, but Jeff Loeb doing the shows, it worked. Sure, some shows were better than others, but like you had Agents of Shield running for
Mm-hmm.
too long and it was good. You had the Netflix shows. People love them and that's why they're back. You had the other ABC shows,
Mm-hmm.
not as successful, but they
Mm-hmm.
went on for multiple seasons, except in Humans. But that was successful. At the same time, you had the peak MCU with Civil
Mm-hmm.
War, the Russos and James Gunn and everyone.
Yeah.
And you had, of course, the comics. They were hectic around 2016 because of a lot of shenanigans that, you can look up what Dan Buckley said about that. Speaking
Mm-hmm.
of firings,
Yeah.
but you it was messy, but then when you got to 2018, things were cohesive again. Like Jason Aaron, Donny Cates, like you had everything cohesive again. And later on, of course, with Jonathan Hickman with Awesome Powers.
Yeah.
So like
Exactly.
Marvel was successful when they had everything. Like there is someone who focuses on everything. But right now, like Kevin Feige has all of those three things. He has Star Wars. He has, I don't know, like at this point he's gonna run Netflix next.
Yeah, yeah, he is definitely. You can definitely tell he stretched himself a little too thin, but not as much. At least he's still focusing on a certain media type. Whereas Jeff Johns tried to do like a little too much of everything. And if you try to do too much of everything, you're gonna get.
Lose
You're
at
never gonna
everything.
get. You're never gonna get more than mediocrity at best. At
Yeah.
best.
Because that honestly like makes me respect Jeff Johns, but at the same time like it's bad
Yeah.
because the thing is that Jeff Johns is a crazy fan. Of course, like he's an
Yes.
adult,
It shows.
he's an adult, he does everything just as everyone else does for money, but at the
Yeah.
same time he loved the characters. Like he was
Mm-hmm.
focused on DC Rebirth and restoring the DC universe to what it
Mm-hmm.
was. After he was, I don't know if you remember that, but he was forced to do the new 52 out of an
Mm-hmm.
arc that was not supposed to reboot the universe.
Yeah.
Flashpoint was supposed to be an arc in the Flash comics, and the next arc after it was supposed to be a Wally story.
Yeah.
Like, there's an interview about that, like, that's crazy. But, he was forced to do the new 52, and then he wanted to do Rebirth. At the same time, he was running as a producer with the Arrowverse shows, like Flash and Arrow and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And in the middle of it there were sexual assault allegation against some of
Yeah.
the creators on that show, those shows and everything else. So like at that time, like things started being stressful, and then you had the Joss Whedon, Zack Snyder
Yeah.
situation. Like
That was it. He had no control over that.
Jeff Johns was being screwed from
Yeah.
every different direction. And
Terrible.
yeah, I don't know if you remember that, but the original pitch for Lanterns was that we were gonna have a show and a movie. The movie starring Hal and John, and that was being written by Jeff Johns, and it was never finished.
That's too
While
bad.
while the show was supposed to focus on other lanterns, and those things kept being delayed all the time until James
Mm-hmm.
Gunn came and he was like, "Let's merge the two into one." So he threw out everything that Jeff and the Greg Berlanti wrote for the show
Yeah.
and the movies, and he was like, "Let's start fresh." That's where the idea for lanterns
Mm-hmm.
came from. So yeah, I think that this is messy, but it is what
Yeah.
it is. Speaking of
What?
messy,
Yes.
do you want to say anything?
No, no. I just want to say sometimes there's certain situations you can't control. Jeff Johns, there's no way he could have known what would have happened with Zack Snyder and the Snyder Bros. No way he could have known what would have happened with Whedon. There's just he. There's a lot of there's a lot more I could say about DC before
James
James Gunn
Gunn.
came aboard, but some of it was just bad luck. Some of it was also misguided decisions, not bad decisions. They were just really misguided. And it's one of those things where you make one misguided decision. So rather than you try too hard to fix it, and it kind of like snowballs to a point where they just can't get out of their own way. Disappointing. Sometimes you just got to rip the Band-Aid off. That's what they did with James Gunn. And I like what Gunn has been doing so far. I don't know. Did you? I don't. This might be. This might be getting ahead of this. But have you seen the trailer for Clayface?
Yep.
I think that looks really cool. I can't wait to
Yeah.
see that.
Absolutely. And I think that it's great that Gunn is doing different stuff. Like, I was
Yeah.
recently looking at what has come out from the Gunn universe so far
Yeah.
and how really different that is. Like, you have the Superman and Supergirl type of deal, which is like PG-13 comic
Yeah.
booky movies, and Blue
Yes.
Beetle. you have this Suicide Squad and Peacemaker and Preacher Commandos, which is like comedic but R-rated, so you see more blood, sex, and all
Yes.
of that stuff. Whereas you
Yeah.
have Clayface and
That's
the
straight up
body
horror.
horror.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely body horror. And of course, it's not DC related, but James Gunn was a part of making the Penguin show.
Yeah.
So,
And
like,
yeah, lots.
yeah,
Yeah, they all work so
yeah,
far, despite them being so different. That's why I'm encouraged about what DC's got going right now. I think I definitely want to see Supergirl. Fun fact: my mom is Superman and is the only superhero movie she will want to see because she actually saw the original Christopher Reeve Superman in theaters back in the '70s, and that was always one of her favorite experiences. Of course, when the new Superman came out last year, we made a whole day of it. She wanted to see that with me so much, and she loved it. And now she wants to see Supergirl.
yeah. She also has to wait 1 year for Man of Tomorrow, which is not that long.
Yeah, she knows. Trust me, she knows.
She's counting down the days.
Yeah,
So, like, I love the trailer, honestly, the body horror element of
yeah.
it. And, as we are speaking of tones, I just remembered something related to tones. We already saw Clayface in this universe. We saw him in Preacher Tremendous.
Yes.
And we are here seeing him in a different way because in Creature Commandos he was more of the comedic guy
Mm-hmm.
who was just hired to pretend to be someone else, and he just like he broke what's his name's back, Rick Flag Senior's
Big,
back.
big,
Yeah, and like he was just being funny, and he replaced this professor, and he was talking about with the students is how he's fascinated by the lesbians on Themyscira. So like, and the next thing you see of him is his origin story, which is like it almost feels like he's a different character.
Yeah. Well, I think
He's
it's
not
actually
fun.
yeah.
He's just a guy who lost stuff, and like there's that scene where he like rubs his face, and you
Yeah.
can't see anything like.
It's really cool because I think when watching that, it made me remember the old Batman animated series version of Clayface because that was very similar in the sense that um, it's kind of the guy Matt Hagen, the actor, the guy before he became Clay, he was a pretty sympathetic character. You feel like okay, he thinks he lost what made him was going to make him a star. He thought that he lost his whole career, but and he tried to get it back. He thought he had this miracle, but in getting it, he went into debt for I think it was Rupert Thorne was the criminal in that show, and Rupert Thorne is the one who kind of made him into a monster. So and I think the way the show is kind of unfolded after that is the longer he kind of is more Clayface and less Matt Hagen, the more of a monster he becomes, and he kind of just eventually embraces it.
Yeah.
So he's one of those tragic monsters, but eventually he kind of just runs with it.
Absolutely. I think that James Tynion played with him really well in the 2016 Detective Comics run
Yeah.
because we've seen him on Batman's team being a part of the Bat family, but at the same time, he was struggling with, being a villain, harming people, although he didn't intend to do
Yeah.
so. And, that was great to see. And I think that for better or worse, we will see that version of Clayface in in the movie.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's going to feel. I hope if they can do sort of what they did with the Penguin. I think this movie is going to be really cool. Maybe it'll be a good
Absolutely.
Halloween. It's already going to be a great. It's coming out in October, right in time for Halloween. I think that's perfect scheduling right there.
Yep. They changed the schedule actually for it to be there. I think they delayed it or maybe moved it forward. I can't remember, but
Yeah.
like they changed the schedule to have it come out on Halloween.
I think that's perfect.
Yep. And doing horror stuff makes me hopeful for something like a Blackest Night down the line.
Yes, I would love a Blackest Night movie. That would be so cool.
Yep. Probably a couple of movies, like, because
Yeah.
when we're talking about Blackest Night, we're talking about something like Infinity War and Endgame level.
Yes, that would definitely require a bigger scale. Like they can't rush that. They should not rush a movie
Absolutely.
like that.
Yep. And
I
do you
would
want to
love
say
for that to
anything?
be. Yeah, I just want to say Blackest Night was my favorite Green Lantern story, one of my favorite DC events of all time. When the first Green Lantern movie came out, I was really hoping that would be what it would build towards, like a Blackest Night movie. Or at the very least, when the show was on for a while, I was hoping maybe that would be what it would build towards. But they never got. Well, after that first, we have like, nope, not happening. But I would maybe if between this show and the fact that we always see Guy Gardner as a Green Lantern, I would love for Blackest Night to be sort of an Endgame type
Hopefully.
movie.
I think that, we don't have to wait long to see how things go for Lanterns.
Mhm.
I'm not concerned about the quality of the show. As we mentioned, we have seen a lot of great DC stuff recently, and we know
Mhm.
James Gunn well. But
Mhm.
I'm concerned about the creative direction that they are taking the characters.
Mhm.
Why do you have to have them fight over a ring when there are 3,200 different Green
Yeah.
Lantern rings and many other Lantern rings? That's
Yeah.
just stupid. Like, I don't know why they're doing it. I hope that there's a bait and switch in the middle
Maybe.
that
Yeah.
you know, especially because like James Gunn has spoken a lot about the fans hating, the John replacing Hal retiring or whatever they're gonna
Mhm.
do, and Hal being old and all of that stuff. So there might be a bait and switch in there somewhere, something related to parallax, time travel, whatever. Like, it's
Mhm.
comics, so there can be a lot of different bait and switches, but
Yeah.
let's see how things go.
I think if they're going to embrace the Parallax storyline where Parallax took over Hal Jordan, I think that would be one way of going about it, but they would have to build to that story.
It's not also to build to that story, but how can you get out of it? Because like,
Okay. Yeah, that's a good
it's
point.
not like, when you talk about this story, it's similar to the Dark Phoenix saga.
Mhm.
It's a story that's supposed to be in the middle of the character's story, but at
Mhm.
the same time, you have to build it right and to build the way out of it right.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's gonna be messy. Like, it was a bit messy when you got the gene resurrected in X Factor.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it was a bit messy, but not so messy like the Phoenix when we had Jeff
Mhm.
Johns resurrect Hal Jordan.
Mhm.
Because, like, Jeff Johns brought him back. He was like, there is a fear bug here, but wait. Like, he started to tell people to slow down and read his run. And by the end of the run, like, when you reach to 2012, you
Mhm.
realize that Jeff Johns made up for for things being messy in the beginning by explaining everything throughout his run, like introducing the different entities, doing Blackest Night, and
Mhm.
even like ending things with Krona and the First Lantern. In
Mhm.
retrospect, it made everything meld well together, but
Mhm.
originally it was kind of like it was hard to tackle.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I'm kind of, I just want to, I'm taking a wait and see approach with the show because I think after the ill fated attempt with the Green Lantern movie, I think it's not, the bar is very, very low for improvement. And I was encouraged by what they did with Guy Gardner in the Superman movie. I
Absolutely.
think that I thought they didn't reveal too much about the Green Lantern Corps. They didn't world build that as much, but the fact that they are a thing, that's encouraging. And they are keeping it simple for now, but yeah, it's how are they going to handle the buildup? Because if they want like a more cosmic element of the DC universe, yeah, Green Lantern's the way to go.
Absolutely. I think that Green Lantern is the only way to go because,
Mhm.
unlike the Marvel universe where like the cosmic universe is wide and has
Yeah,
many different characters and, X-Men run in space a lot of the times, the Fantastic Four, the Avengers,
yeah.
the Guardians, Nova, Venom, whatever, like you have a lot of different elements in the cosmic side of things. Whereas with DC,
Mhm.
90% of their cosmic universe is what is the Green Lantern, and it's what Jeff Jones made with the Green
Yep.
Lanterns.
Yeah. Yeah. And if he just, I think if Jeff Johns just focused on making the Green Lantern angle of the new DC cinematic universe great, then that's all you needs to focus on because,
Absolutely.
yeah, just, focus your talents on one thing. Quit trying to do everything.
Yep.
Let James Gunn do that part.
Honestly, I don't know why they brought Tom King, but and not Jeff Johnson Lanterns. Like, I get what's his name? James Gunn loves certain writers. He
Yeah.
loves Tom King. He loves Grant Morrison.
Yeah.
He also noted like that he likes a lot of what Jeff Johns did with the DC universe. But
Hmm.
I don't know, like, if you're building any universe, why don't you have Jeff on it? And have him from the beginning. Like, one of the mistakes that the original Green Lantern movie had
Hmm.
is that after they were almost done with the movie, they brought Jeff Johns in and they were like, consult us. He
Yeah.
was like, the movie is already done. What am I gonna do here?
Yeah. That sounds like a weird way of quality testing. But then again, I'm not in the movie business. My brother is. And I'm pretty sure if I explained that to him, he would look at me strange. But yeah, I actually I got two relatives who are in the movie business. Well, and actually, fun fact, one of those relatives was on Wonder Woman 1984.
with
I
Jeff
know.
Jones.
I know. And actually, I actually did watch the movie, and this relative of mine actually pointed out, okay, this is on this scene. I was actually behind the camera, and I was actually, a few feet away from Gal Gadot and from Chris Pine. And some of this, I don't want to share everything because I don't think that's something that I don't want lawyers to come after me.
Yeah,
But some of the stories he said are true. Then it's very understandable why that movie flopped the way it
yeah,
did.
yeah. Like that movie was a mess for many different reasons, but like the DC
Yeah,
universe as a whole was a mess at the
yeah,
time. You know,
yeah.
but Jeff Jones still has it for the characters and for
Mhm.
producing. Like, look at his Stargirl show. He did Stargirl on
Well,
the in the Arrowverse for 3 seasons,
yeah,
and
I remember that show.
like it worked really well from beginning, middle, and end. Like
Hmm.
you didn't have it fall down like the other Arrow or Arrowverse
Yeah,
movie shows. I'm sorry. Like
yeah.
from beginning to end, it had a constant, really, really good quality JSA story. You know.
It was concise.
Yep. So I don't know, but hopefully everything works well for DC. Now,
Yeah,
shifting like gear a bit into comics, I want
sure.
like we have a lot of things here to
I'm
discuss.
sorry
Just
we kind of got off topic a bit.
no. I like that, you know. So I'm looking at the things that we said that we want to discuss.
Which we got
We
it.
have a
Yeah,
lot.
which
We
I
have a
know.
lot here, you know. I think that. So
Good,
you
good.
want to talk about Spider-Man since that spiral
Okay.
ended, and we have a couple of things in that spiral and post that spiral to talk about.
Sh- Sure, yeah, with Death Spiral. Well, first off, no one misses Paul. No one at
Absolutely.
all misses Paul. But did you see the Bleeding Cool article about what this upcoming revelation is going to be for Spider-Man 1000?
Yep.
How do you feel about that? Because I know exploring the Parker family tree is it's kind of taboo, like in the comics. I feel like every time they try to dig into it, they make things worse. Like I did not like giving Peter Parker a secret sister. Teresa Parker has like one of the least is not interesting in the slightest to me. But I don't know, giving him a cousin? I don't know why that's a big deal. I don't see what that helps or hinders.
And I also don't understand the reason behind it. Like, as I said, we gave him Teresa Parker, and writers disagree on her all the time. Like, the reason why Teresa is held back is because every writer that writes her either wants to make her Peter's sister and hammer it down, or wants to undo it and make her that she's not Peter's sister.
Yeah.
And that,
Make up your mind.
yes, that destroys the character. She was first introduced, I think, by Mark Waid, and
Yes.
later on, he was like, she is not Peter's sister. But then Chip Zdarsky, in his really, really awesome Spider-Man run, he was like, no, she is his sister. And then Nick Spencer made it ambiguous. And, it ended with her saying,
Yeah.
regardless if I'm really a Parker or not, I'm this guy's sister, and that's it. And then we had
That's
the
not how
recent
it works.
I mean, they accepted it, but whatever. And then you had the recent, what's it called, Spider-Man and Wolverine from
Yeah.
the Ashes era,
Yeah, I saw
and
that.
they made it like they made her not his sister in the sloppiest way possible. Like, realistically speaking, that's not a proof that she is not his sister. He's like, you know. When your parents died, they mentioned Peter, and they didn't mention you. Maybe I don't know. Maybe the video is
Yeah.
tempered. Maybe there are a million different things that happened.
Excuses. Yeah.
Like, that does not prove anything. And like, she saw the video and she is like, okay, I'm not your sister, and she is moving like out of the
Yeah.
room. Like, that was stupid.
Yeah.
It's
At this point, just
definitely,
make her a squirrel agent.
yep, it's definitely not the stupidest thing Mark
Yeah.
Guggenheim has ever made, but yeah,
No, not by a
not
long
even
shot.
close.
No. But yeah, Teresa Parker, I liked the idea, but everything has gone wrong with trying to make it work. And I mean, at this point, either make her a clone or a scroll agent because she just doesn't, whenever she shows up, she's just sort of there. And she's like not likable. She's not compelling. She doesn't really fundamentally change anything about Peter. or him being Spider-Man in any capacity. And it's like she's one of those characters, like she doesn't have to be there. Like if she was deleted via the ultimate nullifier, nothing would change.
Absolutely. And that's the problem. They never cared to do anything with her. They're just,
I
oh, Peter
know.
has a sister, Peter doesn't have a sister. Like,
Nothing, yeah.
they kept teasing for a long time that she would tell Aunt May that, she is her, what's her name? Niece.
Yeah.
I don't know why I was blinking on the word, but that never happened. The
Yeah.
closest thing we had to a good arc with her was in the early in the Nick Spencer run, where she was
Mhm.
like encouraging Peter to like propose to MJ.
Yeah.
That was good, but
That was as
like,
close as we got to her doing anything meaningful.
yep, and that, like, if you stuck to that, it would have worked perfectly.
But they
But
didn't.
yep, because Marvel editorial don't know what they want to do
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
anyone.
Yeah. Woulda, coulda, shoulda seems to be the how they roll with Spider-Man editors.
Yeah, like Marvel as a whole, like, the funny thing is that they keep the changes that everyone hated, but they always change the changes that some people
Everyone
like.
liked.
Like, Teresa
That's
Parker is a
backwards.
yeah, like Teresa is a controversial figure, but some people like her.
Yeah.
Tony Stark experience, I don't know, but like as far as I know, no one likes the retcon that he's adopted, but it's
Yeah.
stuck for whatever reason.
Yeah. Go figure.
Yeah,
But I guess that's
that's
I don't know,
Spider-Man 1000.
yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah,
I I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, giving him a cousin or making it so that May had a child at some point, or I don't know, maybe his uncle Ben fathered a child with someone else. I don't know what that would. What the big thing to make it work is, what does this fundamentally change about Spider-Man? And is it one of those things that if it didn't exist, then would it just be meaningless? I do. That's something that seems that's what's kept Teresa from being decent. What about this revelation? What's it going to change in Peter's life other than, oh, I have this relative that I didn't know about and has never been a part of my life, and
yeah.
what does it change?
Nothing will change because they always go back to that well, and it always never works. Like, remember
Yeah,
when they reintroduced his parents, and later on they were LMDs,
yeah,
and
I remember that.
yep, later on they were like, oh, Teresa's here, but she is not. There was that Trouble comic, which is out of continuity, and
Yeah,
hopefully no one references again. And
hopefully.
then, and and even in the middle, you had the Gwen Stacy thing. Gwen is a mother and whatnot.
Oh, sins past.
Yeah, like, where
That
did
was
that take
awful.
us? Nowhere. They
Yeah,
always go back to that same well, and it always never works because
I'm
they
so glad
always
they
undo it.
retconned that. Yeah, I'm glad
Absolutely.
they
Like,
retconned that.
yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. But that's the thing, like, make it something interesting. And
Yeah.
for a big 1000 issue, that's not a big deal.
Mhm.
And I talked about this before. If 1000 is not the ending of One More Day, it's not gonna be that good because no matter how good the story they tell is, even if it's the best story of all time, it's
Yeah,
never gonna work because you're telling something here and the fans want something here.
yeah,
It's never gonna work because you're not
yeah,
meeting the fans' expectations, even if you're doing something better.
yeah. Sad but true. I think is I don't get the sense that they want to undo One More Day, but if they did, it would boost sales a lot. It would make their jobs harder, but fans would be understanding. And it's kind of one of those weird things. It's like they don't want to do it because it's hard, but it would be successful, and even I think fans would understand if they said, "Look, this is much harder to do now, so we may have to mix things up a bit. Please be." If they were just transparent, I promise you that would go a long, long way. Fans would respond favorably to that.
Yeah, but they're not, they're Marvel and Disney. Two
Yeah,
egos that combined together are the biggest ego ever. And,
yeah,
you can deal with that. And you know what? The sad thing is that it's not gonna be hard. We have the DC comics are doing great with their family comics. We've had
uh-huh.
the Fantastic Four. We have a lot of Avengers have kids. And sooner or later, synergy will make them have kids in the comics if they don't.
Yeah,
So like, it's not something new, and it's not something that's undoable. It's
uh-huh.
just that
It's hard.
they don't want to do it. Ultimate
Yeah,
Spider-Man was their biggest selling comic for 2 years.
Yeah,
even
and that
with
was
a
a
delay.
yeah. They had that was a family, yeah, Spider Family. I know. I bought a actually. I had one in my bedroom. I have a couple comics framed. One of them is the J. Scott Campbell variant of Ultimate Spider-Man #1.
Yeah. And you also had, you had the longest running female title for
Yeah,
like at Marvel for a long time, being Spider-Girl by
yeah.
Tom DeFalco. And
I
even when
remember
they
that. I love
rebooted
that.
it, they kept it going for a while until Casada was like, no, no, let's stop it.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I loved Spider Girl. That was
it
great.
works. Renew Your Vows, the original volume by Dan Slott, worked really well.
Uh-huh.
I think that volume 2 suffered from creative decisions that made it not
Among other
sell
things.
ultimately. Like, you started with Jerry Conway and Ryan Stegman doing some really good stuff, but then in the middle it became hectic. Conway left the title, and then Jody Hauser, for whatever reason, just aged up
The time
anime.
skip ruined it. The time
Yep,
skip
it did
made
the most
yeah.
damage.
I was I already got the sense things were kind of going off the rails after like the 10th issue, but once they did the time
Yep.
skip, like, okay, they are out of ideas and they don't care about this comic. When you do a time skip like that, then that's proof that, okay, I don't want to work with this anymore. I don't have a vision for this. Let's just force this. And like fan fiction writers do that a lot. And again, I've said before on multiple podcasts, I
Yep.
used to write fan fiction. Wasn't very good fan fiction, but I know from experience when you do that kind of time skip, it gets
You don't have ideas. Yeah, it was just messy, and to me, it started to feel like they didn't know what to do once they involved the X-Men, and they were like throwing different shit at the wall. Like,
yeah.
why are you taking this direction and this direction with this character and this direction with that other character? And they were
Yeah.
like, I don't know, maybe shock value, maybe, I don't
I
know.
don't know what they clearly had no vision. Yeah, it's one of those. It's they it's one of those things that could have been unique and interesting, but it would like I think Spider Girl. I'm glad you brought that up because Tom DeFalco he had a vision for that. He didn't just focus on Spider Girl. He built other areas of that universe. I think it was called
Yeah,
MVC2 at the time. I don't know
yeah,
if that's
MC2,
the official. MC2, yeah. He didn't just focus on Spider-Girl. He gave us a version of the Fantastic Four. He gave us a version
Daredevil,
of
he gave up
of
Avengers,
Daredevil, the
X-Men. Yeah,
Avengers, and he made it work with one series,
yeah.
and it was beautiful.
Yeah, it also had spin-offs that didn't sell that well because
Yeah,
it wasn't Spider-Man, and there weren't the mainline stuff. But overall, he sold over 100 issues of Spider-Girl and, like, I don't know, 50 other issues of
yeah,
spin-offs, and it worked really well. And
yeah.
I know people forget about that. A lot of people think that Hope Van Dyne is an original MCU character. She's not.
No,
She
she's not.
she was created by Tom DeFalco in the MC2 universe,
Yeah,
and Cassie Lang becoming Stature, becoming a hero. That was not by Alan Heinberg and the guys behind Young Avengers. That was
yeah,
from the MC2, who Alan and his
yeah,
co-creators were fans of. So they were like, let's bring it into the main
yeah.
continuity.
Wasn't their
So,
idea.
yep. And even later on, I think I can't remember which show it was. Hope Van Dyne had a twin brother who was adapted
Hmm.
in an Avengers show. I think it's A Next, or
Yeah,
maybe
I
that's
think I
the
know which one you're
comic.
talking about. Yeah,
Yeah,
A
but
next.
yeah, but even if it wasn't like, even if it was just Spider Girl being successful and the other things came and went, that like they changed things. The
Yeah,
landscape of comics changed a bit for them, and when the
yeah,
MCU wanted to tackle Ant-Man and make him more family friendly and less about mental health and domestic abuse and all of that stuff, they were like, let's go to the MCU.
yeah. And that wasn't a bad source because it was successful. And I do think that it's sad that MC2 has kind of been forgotten because of I think the Ultimate Universe the first Ultimate Universe kind of overshadowed it, and then after Tom DeFalco kind of left, it's like Marvel's kind of ignored it. It's like we've never I know but Mayday Parker still has some. She does have her share of fans. Like she did show up in I think the Spider Geddon spot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's one of those. It's sad because I don't think enough people remember just how well done that was, and how many
yeah.
ideas from that series ultimately found their way into other comics. So
The thing about Mayday is that, Joe Quesada didn't like her, and later on he had Dan Slott who created Annie in Renew Your Brows, and he was like, after creating Annie and realizing how successful that is, he decided to like just hate on Mayday and any other character he didn't
Yeah.
create that's not Spider-Man, and he just started focusing
He had
on,
an agenda.
yeah, like he had an agenda of creating his own characters and focusing on them. Like,
Yeah.
okay, Annie worked, but you didn't like people
She
don't
worked
have,
until she didn't. Teenage Annie was annoying. I didn't like
yeah,
Teenage Annie.
but that's the thing. Like Annie worked when Dan Slott created her because she was a child. You know, she
Yeah.
was different from May, and you just made her an annoying version of May that didn't
Yeah.
work. But at the same time, like
Yeah.
Dan didn't like May. He didn't like any other like other characters that he didn't create, and that's what led to the creation of what the new Spider Girl and Spider
Yeah.
Boy. And like,
Yeah.
what are you doing with
They're
them
not.
now?
They're not. I don't hate the new them, but but compared to Annie, they're workable. They're fine.
Yep. They're not any, they're definitely not May. Like,
No,
I don't
Mayday's
hate
the
them
goat.
either, but they're not either of those
Yeah.
characters, you know?
Yeah. There's a reason why Mayday made it into Across the Spider-Verse.
Yep. And in the Ultimate Universe, I know she is
Yeah.
not Spider Girl in that new Ultimate Universe, but there's a reason why she was there.
Yeah, I agree, and I think we have Tom DeFalco to thank for that.
Absolutely. And
I
speaking
know
of the,
we're getting
yeah.
off topic
No,
again.
no, no, no,
I'm
no, no.
sorry, we are
No, no,
derailing this
no, no.
again.
I'm loving those conversations, I'm just looking at what else we can talk about.
Oh, we
One
started
thing,
talking. Yeah, we start
yeah,
talking about Spider-Man 1000. Next thing we're talking about Mayday Parker for 15
yep.
minutes.
Yep, it's Spider-Man. It's every
Uh,
it's Spider-Man and mandates. That's always the topic.
yeah,
Speaking of that, what did you think of MJ killing Torment?
I think I think it worked. Anything that gets her further away from you know who,
Yeah,
he who shall not be named.
no,
And also, I think that's also a that's a first step into eventually divorcing her from Venom. Because once those lines start getting crossed, those two are going to start clashing more and more and more. And at some point, that's gonna come to a head.
yep.
It always does. When Venom is not with Eddie, it doesn't take much to drive them apart from a host.
And I think that as you mentioned Eddie, I think that Eddie will be the reason behind their separation because she hates Eddie,
Yeah,
especially at this point. While Venom is Eddie's family, like he is not gonna let her do what she wants
yeah,
to do, and he is not gonna stand and let her insult Eddie or hate Eddie and any of that
yeah.
stuff. So, and I think that there is something good about seeing her just like care about Peter to the point that she is crossing a line without
Yeah.
caring.
Yeah,
Like,
that's telling.
she was not gonna kill Torment, and then he was like, I'm gonna kill Peter, and the next thing is that
Oh,
she just left them, and like you can see that she has no regrets. Like she is angry about it, but she's not
to a
afraid
point.
to take that extra
Yeah,
step. And
yeah,
that's not something new. I remember in the Mark Miller Marvel Knights book,
hmm
she had a gun and she shot, I don't know, 10, 12 bullets at Norman
yeah.
Osborn.
Yeah,
So
she knows
like,
how to use. She can use firearms. I remember the one you're talking about. But yeah, Mary Jane, she does have an edge to her because unlike Peter, she hasn't had that Uncle Ben moment where she doesn't have the whole. Peter's really motivated heavily by guilt. Mary Jane is kind of motivated by she doesn't like being a victim. She doesn't want to be. She doesn't like being vulnerable. And if something or someone threatens that, she gets dangerous. That's all I'll say. Yeah, on that.
yeah, and she also didn't grow up in a normal good
Yeah.
family. So she is like, whenever you threaten the closest thing she has to a normal family, like,
Oh
okay,
yeah.
like you just lost there. And
Yeah.
that's gonna be interesting because Peter definitely is gonna have a lot of thoughts about that stuff.
Yes.
And
Yeah. Even when they
yeah,
were married, that was an issue. Yeah.
yep. So I'm excited a bit to see what's gonna
Yeah.
happen. Hopefully they just don't end up making her and Flash a thing because we can't
No.
ruin Flash too. Like we just ruined
Yeah.
Eddie, just don't ruin Flash too.
Yeah. Exactly. I worry that's the direction they're heading. I mean, come on. She just got rid of Paul, or he who shall not be named.
Yep.
Don't jump to that. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So speaking of characters and being handled weird by Marvel, I want to talk a bit about Storm and Black Panther as as characters and a couple, but mainly as
Yeah.
characters. So
You know
Let's
I have
start with
experience
Storm.
about that. Yeah.
Yep, let's start with Storm. What do you think of Storm's portrayal over the last 15 years? Maybe like post ABA.
Well, I know I have a minority opinion. I got a lot of crap by saying I'm glad she divorced or they annulled her marriage with Black Panther. I've never was a fan of that. Look, I'm not opposed to that. If they had just decided to build towards it, but instead all they did was essentially they recreated their past. That they gave them this elaborate history that until Civil War we didn't even know about, and like that's lazy. That's lazy writing. But since then, I get the sense that every time they cross paths, every time Storm and T'Challa cross paths, it's like the writers aren't sure. Do we want them to get back together? I mean, how do we? They're trying to make it so that it's like they want the marriage back, but they don't want the two characters to be too tied to each other. Because Storm she's very independent. She's a member of the X-Men. That's been sort of her. That's the team she's most closely tied to. Black Panther's, he's tied to the Avengers. He's tied to Wakanda. Doesn't the X-Men? I mean, they've been allies in the past, but not to the extent that they've always kind of been really distant. And I think it's that gap, the fact that T'Challa, he's going to be an Avenger. Well, he's going to be King of Wakanda first, an Avenger second, and an X-Men ally somewhere. That's an afterthought. And I don't think that's if you want him to have a relationship with Storm, that's a problem. Because, I mean, I don't want to get back into the Inhumans versus X-Men period. But what was he doing? What was T'Challa doing when mutants were being gassed to death?
He was
And
with Storm dealing with weird shit
I
in
know,
the
and
Ta-Nehisi Coates run.
yeah, and then there's but that run made no sense. And then later on, when Inhumans versus X-Men finally happened, and you had Storm essentially leading the charge to try to save what was left of the mutant race, it's one of those stories where if Black Panther is really that important to her, but he's nowhere to be seen, he's not involved in any way, shape, or form, then that's a problem. I mean, it's not like they can't have their own thing. I mean, we've seen Cyclops and Jean do that, but the Superman and Lois Lane do that too. It just doesn't. The thing is, Lois Lane is a Superman character. She's involved heavily in his story, but with Black Panther and Storm, it's like they have too many of their own battles to fight that they can't be on the same page. And I don't want to talk about the Ta-Nehisi Coates run. That might be warring another podcast. But the way they're setting it up now, whenever they seem to whenever they're on the same page together, it's like one of the things I just don't like is Storm seems to become a different character when she's in the same room with T'Challa. T'Challa becomes the different character whenever he's in the same room of Storm. And I don't know if this comes back to the way fan fiction writers write. Whenever fan fiction writers write couples, they have this really big problem where characters change so much. They might as well become completely different if their significant other is in the same proximity as them. Now, again, I write bad fan fiction. I've done that. I have horrible examples that I don't care to share, even though they're on the internet right now. But that is my biggest problem with Storm and Black Panther. The fact that they are basically different characters when they're close together. And I think that's a problem it's an intractable problem that I don't know if Marvel wants to try to put them back together, that will make things worse. That's just my opinion. But what do you think?
Like, I like them sometimes, but I don't. Maybe I like the idea of them. Like, I haven't thought about that aspect of it that much. But what I was more thinking about is how Marvel handles the characters as a whole. Because, like, I feel like for the past almost decade, I think that Storm just became a completely different character. Like, she lost herself because, like, somewhere along the line, she was, the leader of the X-Men, one of the best X characters, and then all of a sudden, everyone wants to make her, Black Thor, but without everything that makes Thor interesting. I'm
That's a good
sorry
point.
to say it that way, but
No. That I get what
that's
you mean.
been the thing. Like, I don't know, like every time someone writes her, I think that I hated the way she was written in Krakoa. I know, like, a lot of people will come out at me for that, but like, she was insufferable. Like, she is just there. Oh, she's the Mary Sue, the most powerful person on here. Like, she does weird things. Why? I'm sorry to say, but that doesn't make a good Storm comic.
Mm-hmm.
Like there, like a lot of different writers made Storm work well, while she was less powerful. By the way, it's not
Mm-hmm.
about the powers; it's about who the character is.
Mm-hmm.
The best Storm was the Storm without powers at all, written by Chris Claremont. You know,
Not
what's his
surprising.
name? Dwayne McDuffie wrote her in Black Panther for a while on
The
Fantastic
late,
Four,
yeah.
and it was
R.I.P.
really well. Like it really worked well. I don't know why people want to make her insufferable and think that this will work. And they do that with Jean and what's her name, Jean, Emma, and who else is compared to them all the time? Wanda. I
Wanda
was trying to remember.
Maximoff.
Yeah, like I don't know why they do that. And the sad thing is that there was one writer in the past decade that wanted to make something different with Storm, and that's the current writer, Maria Adeli.
Yeah.
But for like, I haven't talked to the guy personally, but I have, I've had acquaintances that talk to him and other stuff. And, one of the things that they told me about is that he sadly lost his way when it became about, social media. Like when he was
Mm-hmm.
writing Storm early on, I loved the first like 10 to 12 issues of Storm. But
Mm-hmm.
at that point, he started like losing interest in Storm and more about, focusing
Yeah.
on fighting trolls online. And, trolls online, they
That's a waste of
definitely,
time.
like, that's a waste of time and they definitely hurt you. Like,
Yeah.
They drove Jonathan Hickman off of Twitter
Totally
and social media. Like Tom King and Taylor, every couple of days, someone has to
yeah.
add him and fight him.
Yeah.
So that's something that's terrible and it's horrible, but
Mm-hmm.
it happens to everyone. Zeb Wells is not available on social media. He never has
Yeah,
been
I
really.
understand why.
Like, the issue here is that this is a great writer, and I love that he also loves Storm and he loves the Marvel Cosmic Universe. Like,
Yes.
bringing in a lot of deep cuts from the Marvel Cosmic Universe, but like
Mm-hmm.
he lost his way, like fighting fans or not
Mm-hmm.
fans, they're weirdos. Like,
Mm-hmm.
let's put it that way. But
That's the nicest way to describe them.
yep, like why focus on fighting them when you can just continue telling your own good story and
Yeah.
that will be the best response to them because
Mm-hmm.
that can sell well, that can get you to be on Storm for a longer period of time,
Yeah.
that can get you to do other things,
Yeah.
and that can work. If Jonathan Hickman focused on fighting the X fans online or the fans that
He'd never
drove
get
him
anything
off
done.
Twitter, he wouldn't have got either Ultimate Invasion and Ultimate Spider-Man, of course. And he got to experiment with gods. He got a lot of other things because he focused on what he's good at, which is
Mm-hmm.
his craft, and ignoring shitheads.
That's perfect. That's a perfect way to describe it.
Yeah, like I know that one of the things I've noticed from tweeting about Storm is that Muriwa sees almost everything people write about her on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll probably listen to this since
Mm-hmm.
since I'm probably gonna like involve the topic about Storm in the tagline.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're listening, man, I'm just saying that I'm a great fan, but really try to focus on writing great comics and ignore fights. Fights, especially
I second that.
when it comes to Marvel, it's never gonna stop. If people focus on, especially like when we talk about these four characters, Emma,
Yeah.
Storm, Jean Grey, and Wanda. If
Mm-hmm.
everyone focused on fighting the quote unquote fans of these characters, you'll not write great stories with the four of them.
No.
And Wanda sadly suffers from that and has been suffering from that for almost 5 years under Steve
Well,
Orlando.
the MCU is kind of responsible for that too, in some
It's not
respects.
really the MCU because I think the MCU is doing it right, but Steve Orlando is doing it wrong. And
Yeah.
Steve Orlando, like he's also famous for sadly, he's in the same boat as Moreira, sadly. Like he focuses a lot on, fighting fans through comics. Like when someone goes and says something like, "Oh, Wanda couldn't beat this shit out of this guy because she's not as powerful." He'll just, I don't know, introduce a new character that's more powerful than any other character in the Marvel universe, and has Wanda bitch slap him. That's what he does, and that's not how to tell a story. Like that's not
That's
you winning the fights either. Like you don't win the fights and you don't write good comics. So I don't know what are you doing. So again, if Miro was listening, I love you, man. Just focus on telling great stories, and I hope to see what he does next after Storm.
yeah.
He's probably not gonna go anywhere because I think that he
Is
has
he
shown.
explosive?
I'm not sure. But he
Mhm.
has shown, like, Marvel has shown interest in him in recent times. Like,
Okay.
he was one of the guys behind X Manhunt,
Mhm.
three Storm minis, two minis and a maxi, I'm sorry. And he wrote the Iron Man comic from not that long ago. I think it's called I Am Iron Man, which was a
Okay.
celebration of Iron Man. So, like, that's honestly what I have to say about Storm as a character.
Mhm.
And Black Panther is similar, but like Black Panther is buried under way, like, Black Panther as a character does not have an issue, but for whatever reason, writers don't write him well. I don't know why. Like, Ta-Nehisi Coates was writing him middling. Like, some aspects of it were good, other aspects were bad.
Mhm.
John Ridley, like, shit the bed hard.
Mhm.
Eva Ewing, like, the less said about her, the better. I'm sorry, but it is what it is.
You've made your feelings on Eve Ewing very, very clear.
Yeah, like, she had a good run with Ironheart, but honestly, nothing else. Like,
Mhm.
I think that I need to state that because people don't get that for whatever reason. When I'm
Mhm.
criticizing a book, I'm criticizing the book. I'm not
Mhm.
criticizing the creator. The creator is a human being just as me,
Mhm.
and a lot of these guys are decent. Like, my co-host and friend interviewed Steve Orlando and talked to him a lot, and from many friends who met Steve Orlando, they all say that he's one of the nicest and greatest guys you can meet, and he is a great nerd.
Mhm.
And that's awesome. I can probably have an hour or two talking with him about comics, and we will enjoy our time together.
Mhm.
But I'm not. That doesn't change the fact that I don't like his current Fish comic
Yeah.
because I'm judging the comic. I'm not judging him.
That's fair. But going back to Storm, one of the things and I've seen this with Wanda too, and even Jean to a lesser extent, is sometimes writers forget that these characters are human. Like, I really feel like that the Storm, Earth's mightiest mutant, it makes Storm is basically a goddess, but she's not a god, but she isn't. She was worshipped as a goddess. Her powers
Yep,
are very godlike, but she is human. Thor is not a human. He's an Asgardian.
yep,
Storm is human. And that humanity is something that has kind of been, you're right, that has been lacking going back to her time on Oraco. But that's another thing that seems that happens with Wanda. She is human, but that humanity kind of gets lost behind all the magic. It's like it's like I've seen this in some of Steve Orlando's comics where she's less human and just more a Deus Ex Machina, if that's the right word for
absolutely.
the. Jean had that issue a few times, but I do think Stephanie Phillips did a better job than most of showing Jean's human side. Like
In the latter
Stephanie,
half of the run.
yeah,
In the beginning, she was just as bad,
yeah,
but like the latter half, once you
yeah.
started to add the family element of it.
Yes, that's what I was. You stole my thunder right there because that's what I was about to talk about. Because Stephanie Phillips did incorporate Jean's family elements. She had Cyclops, she had Cable show up, her sister. Those humanized Jean, and those human elements are why I think that run worked better than what's going on with Storm, Earth's mightiest mutant, and with Wanda. Now, I admit I do enjoy both comics. I agree. I kind of enjoy the Wanda's comic a little bit more, but at the same time, the fact that Wanda just doesn't feel as human, and neither does Storm. And considering how powerful Jean is, that's kind of telling because if Jean feels more human than those two do, that's kind of that feels like an oversight. If
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the nice way to put it, but there's more I can say. But I'm going to I swear I'm going to derail this conversation too.
No, no, no. I'm always happy to have these conversations. But the thing about, like, the thing that drove me mad when it came to Krakoa was that things didn't make any sense, and like Storm had a worse plot armor than Batman, which is crazy. Like,
That is nuts.
yeah,
Those
like her fight with Vulcan, like Al Ewing tried to sell it as Omega versus Omega. Okay, I respect the idea, but that's not true. Like,
Mhm,
an Omega is different than an Omega. Like,
mhm.
for instance, let's compare Storm to a non-Omega mutant, Namor. Namor
Yes.
is bulletproof. Storm
Yeah.
isn't. She is more powerful, but who can
Mhm.
withstand a bullet? Namor. It's not
Yeah, Namor.
Storm. That's like different powers are, like, they are not comparable, even if they are both Omega level mutants.
Mhm.
Vulcan is almost Superman. You
Yeah.
know, like if Vulcan was like Mr. Black Bolt's boys, he fought Black
Yeah.
Bolt, he fought what's his name? Adam Warlock.
Yeah.
Like he's a
Didn't he also
Superman
fight
character.
Gladiator? Did he also
Yep,
fight Gladiator at one point? Yeah.
Gladiator, like these guys and you know, Nova.
Hmm.
So like Vulcan is on another level than Storm.
Yeah.
But you know,
But not
you
mentally stable.
yeah, he is not. That's also a wrong thing that Ewan got about him. Like he is unstable, but he's also cunning. He's kind of like the Joker in a sense. You know, the Joker is
Yeah.
unstable, but he's also unpredictable and
Yeah.
is like he's a master at planning.
Yeah.
So like those fights were definitely plot armor
Hmm.
heavy, and there were other stuff like I think like when I read X-Men Red, I enjoy Magneto a lot. I just
Yes.
cringe when I read Storm because like Al Ewing writes a human Magneto well, whereas
Hmm.
Storm, as the more he wrote her, the more she became like this Mary Sue with huge plot armor walking through the
Hmm.
book.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to remembering this character is human. Same with Wanda. Remember, these characters are human, and they are they have vulnerabilities that they just seem to get lost in the plot armor.
Yep,
And when you acknowledge the humanity, you pull some of that plot armor back a little.
yep.
That's something another fan fiction writers almost never do, like ever.
The reason why people love this Jean and 80s Jean is not
Yeah,
because of her powers, you know.
yeah,
It's because of her humanity, you know. Yes, the powers are cool. We're reading a comic book, but you know, part of the comic book is struggling and winning after struggling. It's not that, you know, she can slap the shit out of Nightmare and she
yeah,
is like, I beat this guy effortlessly. No, that's not how to write a good character, you know.
yeah,
And that's why, you know, I understand when people complain about Jean and say, what do you like about Jean? Like people say that a lot on Twitter. And, you know, the thing I always respond with is that the Jean you're reading, I don't like, but the Jean I love that doesn't exist in this comic, you never knew about because you
yeah,
never read old comics.
yeah,
Everyone wants to judge comics
yeah. By like,
with,
yeah,
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 by like when they came into comics, and most people judged the 2000s
yeah.
comics, in which Jean would either absent or not written well, unless it was, you know, young Jean Grey.
Yeah, that's something else that that does tend to happen when people say they hate a character. They like will single out like the worst possible issue of a character.
Yeah.
Like every character could be awful if you just focus on the worst issue with the worst writer. I mean, if we judge the X-Men on the Chuck Austin run, you
Oh,
know,
God.
then that would be like that's a terrible standard.
Yep.
So that's a way to that's one way of looking at it.
Yeah. Or even the current era. Like, I love some of the stuff in Shadows of Tomorrow almost more than From the Ashes, but it's like overall, it's not a good X Men era,
Yeah. Well,
like to say the
The
least.
Cyclops miniseries has been great.
Yeah, but the thing about it is that, you know, the thing about this Cyclops mini that makes me reflect on the era negatively is that as a mini, it works, but if it became an ongoing, it won't. And the reason
Yeah,
why
you're
is
right.
that, you know, the Avengers are solo characters who team up in Avengers comics. But you know, when you take Steve Rogers off the list, he has his own supporting characters. You
Yeah.
know, Sharon, Shield, Red Skull, all of that stuff.
Hmm. Hmm.
Whereas, you know, X-Men, when you try to make them solo characters and you take out everything, you take out the supporting cast. You know, one of the reasons Stephanie Phillips run failed earlier is that Jean was alone in space. No, Jean needs the supporting characters, and in her case,
She did. Yeah.
the supporting characters are the X-Men. You
Yeah.
know, so you can't really make an X-Men solo unless you have the X-Men characters in there. As a miniseries, like the Cyclops mini is really good and it works as a miniseries.
Yeah.
If it
Exactly. Yeah.
if it ever gets extended, things need to change. You know, you'll need to
Hmm.
involve Jean, you'll need to involve Storm,
Hmm.
Logan, everyone else, because those are Scott's supporting cast.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree. That's why miniseries you can kind of get away with them. You know, with characters kind of being isolated. The Psylocke miniseries was similar. Minis are fine like that, but yeah, ongoings it's a little trickier, and it's it kind of depends on it kind of depends on how this is all going to lead into DNX. I don't know if you want to save that for another podcast, but
No, no, let's talk
yeah,
about it.
yeah, because that when I heard about that, like this is just the Terrigen Mist all over again. Or it just feels like another like a sequel to Age of Revelation that nobody asked for. Like it feels like why do we need to keep telling this story? it's already been told multiple times, and it wasn't really interesting either time.
Yeah, it's why I said that this story could work well if it was like a big story and merge the plot with Armageddon.
Yeah.
Like,
If
yeah, but they're not gonna do that. But let's see how things go.
I'll give it a chance. I'm not. I'm not liking that it's basically that it's recycling a similar plot that we've seen way too many times. But yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
it's just months.
Yep,
Yep. Do you
yep.
have anything else to say?
Other than I did see those leaked set photos with Sadie Sink. I
Yep.
want to know they're being taken down like right now. If you try to share them, they're going to get struck down, which is
Yep.
kind of like a tacit admission that they were official, that they're not AI generated. Again, nothing has been confirmed, and there's a few people on Twitter who think, oh, she's Typhoid Mary. Why would Typhoid Mary be signed up for multiple sequels?
And we are bringing back Iron Fist and everyone, and
Yeah,
she was already in the
she
like
was
the
in Iron
Iron Fist
Fist.
show a decade ago. Like,
Yes.
yeah,
Some
it's
people just
crazy.
don't are in denial. But again, I'm hoping that maybe we'll get confirmation in San Diego Comic-Con. But right now, kind of those photos are going to be sort of like it feels kind of like a all new like Teen Jean and all new X-Men.
Absolutely.
If
And
that's the way they
Ultimates.
go, I'm fine with that. Yeah, and if all new X-Men with Ultimate Jean, OG Ultimate Jean, that would be incredible. That would definitely carry multiple movies.
Especially that they seem to want to tell a coming of age story with mutants. And
Yes.
Kamala Khan, I don't know if they'll involve her or not, but she's a mutant and they will want to focus on that. So it
Uh-huh.
wouldn't make sense to have her, next to a 30-year-old Cyclops.
Yeah.
And, I know a lot of people take that negatively, but if you think about it, the X-Men, like the best stories under Claremont and Simonson, and even in the 90s show or X-Men 97, the X-Men aren't that old. Like
No, they're like
the,
in their 20s. Yeah.
yeah, like Jean died in the Dark Phoenix saga. She was 25 years old.
Yeah.
But she returned like what, a year later? So
Yeah.
Cyclops was married with a child and they later raised that child. They were like 26, 27.
Yeah.
That's
Not
like
old.
that. Yeah, that's not is either.
Yeah.
Like, you can have those storylines told, I don't know, by 2030,
Yeah.
2031.
Yeah.
It's not that long from now, especially
Yeah.
like considering how many X-Men movies or, series that we'll get
Hmm.
within this time frame. Not a lot.
Yep.
Or maybe a lot. I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
especially like if we focus on telling mini arcs as series, which can work. Like one of the
That
things
can.
that I think can work well is like Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix story,
Yeah.
for instance, like 4 episodes telling the 4-issue miniseries. That would work well. But let's see how it goes.
Yep. That's all I have to say about that. I don't want to derail too many more things, but yeah, thanks for the work. I think we dragged this up for over 2 hours, if you can believe that.
Let's see how it goes after editing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've got plenty to work with, but yeah, thank you for.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. I think we both got off topic multiple times, but
Yeah.
okay. Well, we'll make it work.
I mean, I love that, this podcast is us, ranting about comics and everything we
Yeah.
love. So derailing is a part of that. Yep,
All right.
absolutely. Right. Thank you very much, Jack, for being here as always. Hopefully we'll be back next week.
Yeah.
And thanks everyone for listening. If you're new to the show, thank you for checking us out. And hopefully you'll like what we're doing here. If you're old, hopefully keep tuning in with us and, follow me and Jack on Twitter, Instagram, wherever we are both available. And I think that,
Mhm.
Jack also just posted a new video on the Spider-Man anime, the series from the
Yes,
90s.
please
So,
check that out.
yep, absolutely.
That got over 1,000 views already, so thank you very much.
Yep, like check it out. He has the Emma video. Like, check out like Jack's channel. He does a lot of creep show talks as well as,
Yes.
comics talks. And,
Mwah.
there is stuff to enjoy there.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
Thanks. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Jack. And see you next time. Bye
Take
bye.
care. Stay safe. Bye bye.